kiss for you.
All right, today we're going to be looking at a topic that many people have asked previously, but now that Skype is actually shutting down, I want to kind of talk about and discuss what happened to Skype, what killed Skype, where Skype is now, and all that, and ultimately answer the question that Out of Context tries to answer, which is, does Skype work out of context? Now, a couple people were a little bit confused about what that really means, and so I think I have a good example here. Something that works out of context is like Apple's M series silicon, right? I can hand someone a modern MacBook, whether they use an old Intel Mac, whether they used a Windows PC or anything like that. I can hand them a new M4 chip and have that be in a MacBook or a Mac Mini or anything like that, and they'll think it's great. They'll be able to run all their programs, they'll be able to use all the features, they'll have great battery life. There's not anything I need to do in order to get them prepared to be able to use and find this product interesting, right? And actually be able to use it to its capacity. That succeeds because I don't have to explain anything. Flip side, something like Apple Intelligence or Siri, right? I have to go in and say, hey, here's this voice assistant, you should use it because, and give them a laundry list of things you can do based on whatever the latest addition that Apple has done with their Apple Intelligence, right? Latest context-based Siri and all that. I have to explain to someone, because it's not obvious when they look up Siri or look up any other voice assistant, what it can do. And so voice assistants in this case fail out of context because they don't work. I have to go and explain to someone all these features. So hopefully that was a simple explanation to the difference between something that succeeds and something that fails. And today we're looking at Skype because it's shutting down, and I wanted to answer that question as well. Ultimately, I think that Skype does succeed in a lot of aspects when it comes to being able to actually use this product as it's intended. To me, the reason Skype ended up failing is not because of its sort of lack of changes. It's ultimately because what ended up replacing it, which is Microsoft Teams over here, did not do nearly enough to set itself apart from the competition. So a lot of people, as they kind of learn about Skype and what it used to be and what it did, believe that Skype kind of died off because better alternatives like Discord came up, Slack, those kind of channels came up and just made a better version of Skype. I personally don't believe something like that. I more succinctly believe that Skype was really good for what it was. I think it's still installed by default on computers. It might not be, but it seems like it is. Yeah, here we go. Or not. It is not installed by default, which is good. But yeah, so Skype here, I don't have it on the new computer, but it really was a simple interface and a simple way to call people and text people and message people that really sort of pioneered that way of online communication way before things like Discord or Slack or even TeamSpeak would really become things to be in competition with. It was owned by Microsoft. It was a proprietary way to call people and text people, and it was just a nice app that was bundled by default with Windows 8 and Windows 10, I believe. And in Windows 11, it doesn't seem to be installed by default, but it was that sort of very easy way to just contact people and call people and without charging any money, without costing anything, and just a very easy way to do that. And that ultimately is kind of where it starts to become a problem, where its downfall can kind of be seen and kind of be understood. Skype, in its acquisition after it was acquired by Microsoft in 2011, really began its downward trend because it did not change when it needed to. And that isn't anything against it, it's just other things end up getting better, right? Skype, in its factor for video calls, was still the best platform because Discord didn't get into video calls until October of 2017. So you didn't have an option, you had voice calls, but you didn't have video calls for anything other than Skype, in terms of things that were free, right, for video calls, until October 2017 when Discord said, hey, we're doing video calls now, right? And so Skype was a good option. Was it the best option? Not necessarily. There were other things like Google Hangouts that were an option, right? Google Duo, Apple FaceTime, But Skype was a good option that worked on a lot of devices to be able to do video calls before it kind of went away. Skype, in its effort to modernize, did a couple things. The screenshot you're seeing here is the current UI for Skype, but this UI was originally around in I think 2014, I want to say, before Windows 10. So this is a Windows 8 interface looking thing for Skype. And really what that meant is that for like 10 years of its life, so if we go to this chart here and we see, 2011 to 2025 is when Microsoft owned it, it really didn't change from that initial like 2014-ish design area, right? It didn't change until it ended up getting shut down in 2025. So that's a really long period of time where something isn't moving, isn't adapting. And so that's where you get things like Discord. But I don't believe that Discord really shut down, Skype's ability to do things, because again, it didn't get its ability to do video calls, which is a major part of Skype, until October 2017. What really kind of forwarded into the momentum of no one really using Skype is that Skype had kind of two factors. The personal thing, which is Skype, normal Skype for personal use, and that can be replaced by things like Discord. You then had Slack, which is similar to Discord, but it is for work management and project management relating to business priorities, right? It's a paid app that you can use similar to Discord, but for any business, your company might use it, that kind of thing, communication there. Skype for Business, as we see above here, was a thing, but it was very bad and not really meant for business. It was not a good app to do that. And so if you wanted Skype for Business, you were just going to use Slack instead. Slack initial release date of 2013, it was enough kind of relevant where Skype was still relevant to be in competition with Skype, and so people just really did Slack instead. So overall, Skype for Business, which is the only way that Skype really made money, because I don't believe Skype ran ads or anything. There was a way to have a toll system for calling, so if you want to call internationally through Skype, you could pay whatever the going rate for that is for international calling, but really Skype for Business was the way it made money. So Slack obviously gets rid of that, so now Skype isn't really making any money. There's no way for Skype to really compete against something like Slack. And so you really have a decision. Do you continue developing Skype for personal use, with the competition being things like Discord and TeamSpeak that are winning and have better features and are more interesting for the target market? Or do you pivot to something like business focus and leave the personal behind? That's really what Microsoft ends up doing with Microsoft Teams. Microsoft Teams here is an awful application. What it is a Microsoft-based application, in theory, the next evolution of Skype that can do more than just chat and have group chats and have video. It's effectively a platform for business. And it replaces Skype, functionally speaking, Skype for Business, where they can effectively use it instead of Skype for Business. So now all Skype is a personal use thing, which again, as I said, gets beaten out by the other ones. Teams, in the way that Microsoft makes money, I kind of think of Teams as saying, okay, we need to compete with Skype or a Discord or other these channel-based ones. So you can see here we have the chats. So you have your standard chat thing like you would Skype. We have a little Teams button here that can be for team communication, video calls, that kind of thing. I don't believe it has voice calls, but it could, depending on how you set it up. But the other thing that Microsoft loves doing on their apps for some god reason is adding all the extra stuff you don't need, like the calendar system and punching Outlook into here and giving you, word processing in here. Like there's just so much Microsoft bloat that you stuff into this app. Like you don't need a calendar system in this thing to manage Outlook, right? You don't need this notification thing or whatever whatever Microsoft uses to keep notifications and tasks in place. Teams is trying to be Skype and Discord and a business kind of calendar place like Outlook and something like Google Classroom with assignments and tasks and things. And it just doesn't work for nearly all of that. And that's what it's trying to do. So it merges everything into one. And now instead of having a succinct video platform that you can call and text people, it's this gargantuan mess where you can call people, text people, voice chat, notifications, calendar invites, like set up all this stuff, photos and video sharing things. It's a mess. But it is something that makes money and is something that replaces Skype. So now we have a situation where Skype doesn't do anything. No one's using it for personal because there's better options. No one's using it for business because Microsoft has basically forced you into using Teams, which is not good. And so you're left with the fact of Skype is an also-ran, which in many terms, similar to something like Cortana, is an idea that it's the third place leader and it might as well get shut down. The reason it hadn't been shut down before this is because Microsoft's a pretty big company and it doesn't need all of the kind of advancements that a lot of the time Microsoft likes to use its compatibility and its ability to kind of say, hey, we work with really old pieces of software as a benefit. That's why it didn't shut down Internet Explorer until 10 years after anyone stopped caring about it. It really likes being able to say, yeah, we are the one company that has old software like Skype so that you can actually use this old software and not have to upgrade. Well, all of a sudden, when it forces you to not use Skype anymore for business reasons and says, hey, Teams is the thing we're going all in on, they're making that statement. They're like, Skype is useless. You don't want to use it. You want to use Teams instead. And that's kind of what this article talks about as well. It's like, Skype, once renowned for this stuff, competition, the slow performance, the focus that it has, and then it talks about alternatives. And obviously Zoom is here, right, for conferences and meetings. I think that Skype definitely could have worked. I think what probably should have happened is if Microsoft wanted to continue down this path, they could have bought Zoom early on and integrated it into Skype, making both applications worse. Don't get me wrong, Microsoft tends to do that. Buying the opposition, combining it with their own stuff, making both products worse. But they really could have done that so that Skype was the video calling stuff, or Zoom was the video calling stuff, and Skype was like a platform similar to something like what Teams was. Because the biggest issue with Teams was that there was multiple versions of Teams you had to download, and it was one unified app platform. Skype itself was pretty simple. It was one app that had two functions. Teams is one app that has about 6 different functions, and there's 2 versions of the app, depending on if it's for personal, in quotes, use, or it's business use. And the only difference there is some like more level support and some enterprise features relating to assigning roles and that kind of stuff. But really speaking, Skype ends up just being this thing that no one really wants to do, and you have much better alternatives. But what people kind of don't understand is that the Skype, as you can see here, is quite an old platform. Skype technology from 2003 to 2011 is a significant amount of time where nothing exists. There's no Teams, there's no anything like this. It's just one platform, and it's called Skype. And that was because, as we saw up here, it's a proprietary telecommunications using IP-based videography, instant calls, that kind of thing. Way before, as I said, 2003 to 2011, way before this thing was actually super big. And so you get to a point where nothing is touching Skype. Because Skype is popular, I think a lot of people kind of forget that Skype was a very popular platform and a host. So Skype 2006 data, right? Let's see if we can find anything here. 100 million registered users by April in 2006. Skype 2.0 for Mac with video capabilities. This is again in 2006. About 10 years. Something like TeamSpeak was also popular that didn't have it. Skype out calls. Let's see if we can find anything here. Voice over IP service launching in 2003. Yeah, so there really wasn't anything else like Skype at the time, but obviously it ends up kind of being retired, both the paid version and the free version, as well as what we talked about for business. But there really was nothing else like Skype at the time, and that's kind of how it rocketed to its growth. I mean, you can look at this. You can look at this growth here in mentions of reports. You can look at this here. You can look at the trend data. There's a lot of ideas here of this is what Skype was. This is the success it kind of was able to get to. And I think if you use Skype now, if we go back to this, part here, and for the Windows Store, Skype does still look like a modern platform. Even if this hasn't been updated in 10 years, the design language of Windows 8 does still feel pretty modern in comparison to things like TeamSpeak or even Discord in its early years, right? And so you get these sort of very nice emojis, if you will, and design language here, and it's kind of just ideal for what they do. And you kind of see this sort of gathering friends, and then you get chat with AI. And so you kind of realize what ends up happening is they didn't update Skype or do anything to it for a very long time. Now all of a sudden you smash it in with Bing and you can do searches in Skype for whatever reason and chat with AI and do AI generated images and all that stuff. And so it's basically just what it feels like is they left Skype on the back burner and then they had no idea what to do with Skype. And now all of a sudden they're cramming a bunch of features in it and now it's going to get shut down. And so that's kind of the life cycle you see of a lot of Microsoft products. In this case, it shows Skype, but it's owned by Microsoft. A lot of Microsoft products here, you see this cascade. It's like LinkedIn's a similar thing. It starts as one thing, they cram Bing into it, they cram their AI recommended algorithm crap into it, and just make the overall product considerably worse. The annoying part about Skype is that it wasn't worse. Skype was, and when a lot of people obviously don't understand because they hadn't used it at a time, Skype did not change for a long time, and it was useful because it wasn't changing as every single app was redesigning itself and redoing itself and adding ads and adding everything else. Skype didn't, but that ultimately didn't help its ability to sustain itself long term because other options kind of ruled it out. But overall, for an out of context, I would say that if you were to give someone Skype here, they would still find it useful. However, I would also think that depending on, at what point you give it to them, if you're giving it to them like right now and assuming it didn't shut down, they would probably find all the AI features and stuff pretty cumbersome overall, because it's not something that a video platform really should have or really needs to have. I think something like Slack and Discord do it a little bit better. Let me find that. Yeah, I think Slack does it a little bit better where they have bots. So you can have, you can go in here, right? You can do like / whatever, and you can set up these bots to do tracking and do AI stuff for you. And that's a much better experience because you are not dealing with the inbuilt, hey, ask Gemini or whatever to do some crap. It's just, hey, let's set up specific bots and channels that give you help information or help you set things up or are able to find information for you, right? That's really, I think, a good implementation of it, as you can see here in this demo, that does not work with Skype. As we saw here, Skype's whole thing is just about being as blatant and in your face as possible. So we go back here, right? It's like, hey, chat with Bing, ask me anything, Bing, all the way here, image generating, blah, 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 right? It's very prominent here, and it's not something that's in the background. And so that's kind of another thing that ends up happening with Microsoft products is that any new feature, they really want to tell you, hey, this is a new feature. Another example with LinkedIn is when they did the whole video, Amazon too. There's a lot of things that's like, hey, guess what? You have TikTok now. Your Amazon app has an AI assistant in it, and it has a TikTok feature. Same thing with LinkedIn, AI assistant, TikTok feature, and blah, 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 and all these other ones. It's all the same crap. And it becomes very annoying when every single app is trying to shove everything down the throat. AI work management and productivity tools. Even Slack is like, guys, guess what? We have AI productivity tools. Please don't leave. And Skype was really, I think, a bastion away from that for a very long time. So it does make sense that on its deathbed, they would, sacrilege and destroy all that by just making another annoying assistant. So hopefully that was interesting. Hopefully kind of got something out of that. I do believe that Skype, in its ability to kind of not be going crazy with what it was doing, was able to get something a little bit more useful out of it than a lot of other apps ended up being. But obviously, on its deathbed, it shows the fact that Microsoft is just willing to shove anything into it to get user retention, which is very unfortunate. Yeah. If you enjoyed this, want to see more on the channel, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, do all that, and I'll see everyone in the next video.